Hello and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. I'm joining you from livestream.travel and eTurbo News, this time from Cologne, Germany. And with me is Dr. Peter Talo. He's in College Station, Texas. We always talk about the weather, and you can see I have my breaking news screen behind it, even though I'm sitting in front of the window and I don't want to really share this. The weather is just simply horrible. It's stormy, windy, and it's raining. So it's not really a nice day here when it comes to the weather. How are things in College Station, Texas?
Well, here they're a lot better. It's in the low 70s, which would be around 24, 25 Celsius, maybe 22 Celsius. And we had a little bit of clouds in the morning, but now the skies are turning blue. So maybe people from Germany, if they want to get away from the bad weather in Northern Europe, should come and take a visit and come here to Texas. And they can get good steaks, and they can see nice blue skies, and they can even ride a horse, and they can be cowboys for a few days.
So I think Germans love to do that, Peter.
And yes, we have many German tourists here, by the way. And one of the things that the German tourists love when they come to Texas is to come to rodeos. And they're just fascinated by the fact that this is not a show put on for people, but this is like real life and everyday things that people do. So whenever you go to a small town Texas rodeo, somehow you always find a few German tourists. They just have a wonderful time, and they cannot wait to take enough pictures to send home and say, I was here. So if the weather is bad in Germany, I suggest you all come and visit us in Texas.
Great idea. And well, there's a number of things going on today in the world. I just found our story we just published in regards to the PCR test being no longer allowed by the CDC after January 1st. Quite surprising, even though we had included this in the story about 6-7 months ago. This was about rumors that the PCR test is really not able to distinguish between the flu and COVID. So now it's official. As of January 1st, CDC is taking their request back to authorize the PCR test to be used to test for COVID. What do you think about that, Peter?
Well, today was the first time I had officially heard about this. I think I have two questions. One, what will the CDC, for those who don't speak English very well, is the Center for Disease Control. One, I wonder what will they substitute instead, because the antigen tests, which were the others, the at-home tests that people take, are often give you false positives, and so they are problematic. The U.S. government has now, starting at the end of January, ordered 500 million tests to be given free to families around the United States. But again, they're not 100% accurate. They give you a kind of a sense of feeling better, but you don't really know what it is. It's not surprising to me that there would be some confusion between COVID and flu, because they're both coronas. And actually, the family of coronas also deals with a bad cold. And so part of the problem is that if we cannot distinguish one from the other, that's going to be a little bit problematic. On the other hand, if you get a negative test, you do know that you don't have either the flu or a corona. So maybe that's good in that sense. So at least it gives you a sense of that you're well. And maybe that's really all we need, because I'm afraid that if we start saying the PCR test is not good, possibly for use in a hospital, but as far as travel goes, first of all, I don't think people should be on a plane if they have the flu, because the flu is also, influenza is very contagious, and it's also deadly. Up until the corona period, the flu kills thousands and tens of thousands of people every year. We just didn't make a big deal of it. We just accepted it as part of of how life would go on. So maybe having these tests is not a bad idea. And if it also tests in a sense for the flu, even though that scientifically doesn't distinguish, maybe that's a way that tourism can really get back on its feet. And people will not be afraid to go to a hotel because of flu, and they won't be afraid to go to a hotel or get on an airplane because of corona. So I'm not so sure. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I don't know. That's something we'll have to figure out. But I do think we have to distinguish the tourism aspect from the scientific aspect in this case. The tourism aspect is, are people afraid to travel? And the scientific aspect is, you want to know exactly what the disease is from a medical perspective, so that you're able to treat it. So from a treatment perspective, this is a major crisis. From a tourism perspective, it might actually be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and talking about safety, security, it's a part, of course, safe travels, right. Healthy travel is part of the safety security field you're an expert in, Peter. Yes. So I'm wondering, how do you see, with COVID and the different strains of COVID coming and going, is this a threat to the overall security in the travel industry, or do we have to look at it in a different way?
Well, first of all, without travel, without security, and that includes biosecurity, health security, physical security, counterterrorism, the whole gamut of the security issues, tourism ceases. We saw that in 2019. You were just in Holland, where the country is closed down. If the country is closed down, you know what? There's no tourism, because if all the stores are closed, you're not going to make any money. So this is a real issue. Certainly places like Latin America, which have so many wonderful things to offer, but they've been hurt terribly by the fact that people are afraid of physical security issues, robberies, assaults. Tourists have been attacked. And that's a real issue that if Latin America were able to get a handle on it, have better police training, have better control when they have major events, they would be able to become not a extra in the world of tourism, but really a major player. If you think Latin America has incredible landscapes and wonderful cities, take a place like Rio de Janeiro. It's an absolutely fantastic city, and yet you have murders right on Copacabana or Ipanema Beach. And so people are afraid to carry more than $10 in their pocket. That's a big problem. In the same way, I was just recently in Ecuador. It's an absolutely beautiful country. And if they were able to get really control of their security situation in their major cities especially, this would turn Ecuador into truly the fields of flowers, which is a major Ecuadorian export for all of Latin America. So this is a real issue. We have to work on making sure planes are safe. We have to make sure that people don't feel they're going to be assaulted. But that means good training, good lighting, not just passive security, putting up some cameras, but the best security is when nothing happens. And so that's a real issue that we have to work on across the world. Another place where that would really change the economy would be Africa, where so many people are suffer from one or other form of assault. And if the Africa, and I know the African Tourism Board has looked at this, could really confront issues of security, then you know what? Africa would become an amazing place to visit. And I think so many people are tired of just going to Europe. And Europeans are tired of being in Europe. And the weather is great. They would be able to think, wow, what a wonderful experience. And you'd get away from the cold, rainy skies of Northern Europe and see the blue skies of Africa or Latin America and wonderful beaches.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And with COVID, of course, people get desperate. People have no income, and that opens the door for robbery, for assault. So security becomes an issue in a new form. Here in Germany, for example, knife stabbings are becoming more frequent. It is now illegal to bring your knife to the city center, like here in Cologne, or to Düsseldorf or other cities. And so when you go to certain areas, you may be checked. And if you have a knife, it's going to be taken away.
A pen knife.
Yeah.
And how many people just have a pen knife on their keychain? They don't even think about it. But this is a real tragedy, the whole stabbing situation. I know that's a European problem, not only in Germany, but it's also a problem in England, in the United Kingdom, in many of the European countries. And you really, and the problem that it's hard to really understand is these people are not stabbing you for money. They're stabbing you very often just for the sake of stabbing. So if somebody held you up and said, I want your wallet, at least you could understand there's a financial part to it. But when it comes to just murder or hurt for the sake of murder or hurt or terrorism, that's really a tragedy that's even worse than where we are. So these are really important. Without some form of people feeling safe on the streets, there are going to be real problems for the tourism industry.
Yeah, and what is your best advice if you run into a situation and all of a sudden you're confronted with the guy with the knife? How as a tourist or as a bystander who all of a sudden gets involved in such a situation? I remember when I was a guest in one of your events in Las Vegas, you had a pretty good advice for such a person.
Well, one of the first things is if somebody's coming up with you for a knife, don't get into a fight because they have the knife and you don't. And you don't want to be hurt. So if you can, here are a few things you can do. One is act crazy.
That's what it was.
People,
act crazy.
Yes.
I love that.
It starts screaming, it starts saying totally crazy things because most people, especially the business of assault, those people who are going to rob for money, they don't want to take a chance that they don't understand where you're coming from. They just assume they're going to put a knife or gun and you're going to hand over your goods. So if you start acting drunk or crazy or like a lunatic, they're going to be freaked out and they're going to start going away from you, which is good. You will lose some of your prestige maybe, but you'll save your life. If that won't work, then the next thing to do is run. Yes. Because the chances of that person getting you with a knife while running after you is much smaller. By the way, that's also true in issues of gunfire. Most criminals only are able to hit their target 1 out of 10 times. So if you're weaving back and forth and running, you have a very high probability the bullet will never touch you. Now, thirdly, scream, make a big scene, because the bigger the scene you make, the more that person is going to want to back off. So, and fourthly, and this is the thing that's really important, we need to have good trained police officers or other security officers in the area so that they're able to protect those who are vulnerable. In reality, all tourists are vulnerable because you don't go to visit Cologne or Berlin or Amsterdam with the idea that somebody's going to knife you. You go with the idea of taking pretty pictures, having a nice dinner, seeing something you've never seen before. And so it doesn't occur to most people that they're going to be attacked. Therefore, the last thing is always think through, what is my escape route? And don't put yourself in a place where you cannot escape. So, and that's going to be a big issue as we see major sporting events taking place, because those are large crowds. And even though they're outside, how we're going to do large sporting events with COVID and with so many of these other issues, and hopefully, before COVID wasn't quite as contagious, but now the new Omicron variant is very contagious. Now, maybe that's good. Maybe that will create herd immunity, and if we all end up with Omicron, nobody will get it. We'll all get it, so no one will get it. But you know, in the end, you're responsible for your own security. So always be thinking through, what would I do in case? And that's an important question to always ask. But yes, the first thing to do is always act like a lunatic. The crazier you act, the safer you'll be.
Well, very good advice, Peter. I love it. And it makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yes. Well, I believe you are going to be leaving Germany soon. Am I not correct?
Yeah, I'll be leaving here on Thursday. I'm going to be in, well, not really Germany. I'm going to be in Berlin for one night. and then I'm going on to Greece before returning to New York. So I'm looking
Well,
forward
then what
to
we have to do is make sure we do a program from Greece, and maybe you can have a picture of the Parthenon or some of the beautiful buildings in Athens. And Greece is always very special to me because of the fact that part of my family is Greek. So I have great feelings of love and care for Greece and the Greek people. They've suffered terribly, both from economics and from COVID. And hopefully the sunlight of Greece will soon shine around the whole world.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic place, great food also. Looking forward. And yes, we will do a session from Greece.
All right.
Peter, I hope you stay safe and I hope
I
you
will.
stay healthy. And I guess we see each other soon again, at least
Yes.
virtually.
Right. Stay. Here the sun is shining, but when you go outside, make sure you wear a raincoat, take lots of vitamin C, and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Peter. Bye-bye.